Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Ron Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today, we are going to be continuing What If Issei Was the Ghost Rider? Highschool DxD Flame of Fury, Season 3, Part 2. First and foremost, if you're new to the channel, or if you like everything else that we have on PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Where we last left off with this series, as I've stated before, we are going to be doing things a little bit differently. Rather than just going through what happens in Season 3 of Highschool DxD in the anime, I'm actually going to be drawing inspiration from the events of the manga and the light novels. The reason why I'm doing so for this is because I feel in this story and situation, things should play out a little bit differently. In this universe, Issei inherits the spirit of vengeance and becomes the new Ghost Rider, not being a part of the House of Grimoire, although he does help out the Occult Research Club whenever he can. In these circumstances, Issei's life takes a different turn, and as such, events in this story does as well. That being in the sense that there are some characters who were formerly villains who become heroes. New villains that show up in the story with plenty of twists and turns. As we go into part 2 of the story, we're going to see how events play out for our heroes. As many things change, there are many more things that stay the same. But for all this and more, you'll have to find out. So, as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. With the exhibition looming on the horizon, everyone was preparing, as this was an opportunity to test their skills, to show what they had learned, and to truly push themselves to the limit. As Issei prepared for his matchup against Danny Ketch, he remembered how their last fight went, how he was utterly and completely humiliated, how Danny made easy work of him. He knew very well more than anything. He wanted this rematch. A chance to show what he was truly capable of. And to show he wasn't the same Ghost Rider that Danny fought the last time. While in preparation, he would run into Rias by chance, the two of them striking up a conversation. For Rias, she felt really shy around Issei. She was still sporting the eye patch around her left eye, the eye that had been damaged from her fight with Riser Phoenix long ago. Issei wanted to ask her about it, but he knew that it might have been a little too touchy of a subject at the moment. All the same, Rias was just happy to have time with Issei to begin with. He seemed so fascinating to her, although so imposing in a sense. You could say that in this line of events, the roles had been reversed. While Issei was the one pining after Rias in awe of her power and magnificence, here it was the other way around. Issei was the one who seemed larger than life, more than anyone that Rias had ever met. And she found herself quite infatuated with him, from when he saved her from Riser, and everything else that he had done up until now. He had good qualities, ones that anyone could admire. Of course, Rias still had her offer for him to join her household, and Issei wasn't anywhere near inclined to join yet, but still she held out hope that maybe someday the Ghost Rider would be on her side. That was something that she would look forward to. All the while, Issei's influence wasn't just affecting Rias, but it was affecting others as well. For Akeno and Rainier, they started to become more like sisters than anything else, both sharing heritage as a fallen angel turned devil. Of course, though, there was the issue of their training, in the sense that Akeno had a hard time working with her father. For her and Rainier, Akeno would vent and let out all of her frustrations, and Rainier saw where she was coming from. However, Rainier would give her own advice when it came to forgiveness. Even if it wasn't easy, it wasn't impossible. She would point to Issei as the ultimate example. Issei was literally the embodiment of the spirit of vengeance, and despite everything she had done to wrong him, he found it in his heart to forgive. Deep down, Rainier knew that that couldn't have been easy for Issei. It never was. A Ghost Rider's natural instinct is to take vengeance upon those who have been wronged, and to bring justice to the wrongdoer. Rainier knew she deserved nothing but a painful and sorry death. But yet she had been given a second chance. A second chance at life. A second chance to be better than she was before. And for that she was grateful. This had an effect on Akeno also. Having a chance to experience such forgiveness. She wondered if maybe it wasn't too impossible. That maybe she could offer that same courtesy to her father, despite the past that they had with one another. In the meantime, everyone else were preparing in their own ways. Kaneko and Kuroka were slowly repairing their relationship, although it wasn't something that would happen overnight. Volley got a chance to spar with Irina. The two of them both having their balance breakers, Issei got the opportunity to see what the red and white dragons were truly capable of. And to be honest, their power was quite frightening. Although he thought that he could take either one of them with his own ability, still, to say that these two dragons had the abilities to surpass even the gods themselves wasn't an understatement, and Issei knew they would only get stronger as time went on. Eventually, though, the day would come for the event to take place. People coming from all over in the underworld to the arena to watch this special exhibition being held by Azazel and the other Devil Kings. Everyone was looking forward to the matchups that were to take place. The first one being Volley Lucifer versus Cyrus Baal. To learn that Volley was a descendant of the original Lucifer, one of the 4 Devil Kings that died during the last Great War, was definitely an understatement. For many, they wondered if maybe Volley would challenge for the title of Devil King someday. After all, it wouldn't be impossible. And Cyrus having the title of Lucifer, it made all the more speculation. Would Cyrus potentially have to do combat with the White Dragon Emperor? What would the White Dragon Emperor want to do as the Devil King? Of course, Cyrus made no time wasting, making it very clear that he too was willing to fight for one of the titles. To see 2 potential candidates getting a chance to do battle with one another, that was more so than what anyone could ask for. Everyone in the crowd would be anticipating the match as the fight would begin. Volley wasting no time entering into his balance breaker as he fought against Cyrus. Despite not being born with the power of destruction, Cyrus' overall strength was something that Volley truly was not expecting. His pure form, his raw, unimaginable power that he had obtained through hard work and training, was more so than what Volley could have ever expected. A few times, even as Volley was dividing Cyrus' power, he was still more than strong enough to shatter some of his armor. Of course, Volley using Divine Dividing did give him a serviceable advantage over Cyrus. The truth of the matter was, strength for strength, Volley could not match Cyrus in raw power. He just didn't have the capability to do so. No White Dragon Emperor ever did. But that wasn't the strength of the White Dragon Emperor. The strength of the dragon, the power of divine dividing. It came in taking the power of its enemy, cutting it in half while increasing one's own. That was how the white dragon was able to surpass all those that came against him, and how it was able to stand on even footing with the white dragons of old, even being the rival to the red dragon emperor. As their battle continued, Volley became more and more enthralled with the fight with Cyrus, and for Cyrus just the same. For both Issei and Irina, they never thought that they would see a fight of this magnitude. Issei getting a chance to truly observe and see what the white dragon was capable of, and for Irina and Dreg, they got a chance to see what Volley and Albion could truly do as a team, realizing that they were definitely two that were not to be underestimated. The fight eventually dragged on to the point where it seemed as though either man could win the battle. No one truly knew who was going to come out next. There were a bit of worries though. If they continued going at the pace that they were, they might actually end up killing one another. Eventually though, Azazel would call for the match to end, as the two of them connected with right hooks to one another in the face, both of them falling back to the ground. Volley standing up as some of his armor was starting to crumble and break away, and Cyrus as his knuckles were bleeding, and he was getting to cough up blood at the mouth. Azazel would explain that this was just an exhibition, and that while he wanted them to go all out, he didn't think that fighting to the death was necessary. While both Cyrus and Volley wanted to keep going, they knew better for now. They would both shake hands and congratulate one another after the fight. Cyrus being so bold as to say that Volley should form a team of his own, and challenge him officially in a rating game. The more Volley thought about it, the more he realized that the rating game might not be such a bad idea. After all, it would provide him an opportunity to face powerful opponents, and he knew for a fact that he wanted to fight Cyrus again someday. Volley told him he would think about it, giving him a smirk as the two shook hands and went back to the healing chambers to recover from the fight that they had had. Both Issei and Irina went to congratulate Volley on a well-fought match, as it was something they had never seen before. Volley would simply state that he expected the same from the two of them in the future, that he saw the two of them as his rivals, and that if they were going to stay that way, then they needed to show that they could hang with him, and he wanted to see just how stronger they could become as well. A brief intermission would be had before the next matchup, Issei becoming a bit more anxious, as he knew the time had now come. Lady Mephisto sat out in the crowd, in a private box area along with Sir Zex and Azazel. This was a match that she too was looking forward to seeing, to see what Issei had learned in his time of training. As a ghostwriter, he impressed her more and more each day. And unknown to Issei, Danny had been giving a very good report about his skills back to Lady Mephisto, even going as far as to praise Issei, stating that if there was anyone who had the potential to surpass Johnny, Issei could be the one to do so. That sentiment was bittersweet for the lady. As much as she saw the potential within him, there was a part of her that resented the fact that Issei might actually surpass her true love, the man of whom she bore her soul to. There were so many conflicting feelings within Lady Mephisto, ones of which even she herself could not fully comprehend. She never fully understood her place in the world. She knew she had a job to do, but at the same time, she wondered if things could have possibly have been different. The fact was that if Lady Mephisto wanted to, they could have added a fifth Devil King in the underworld and given Lady Mephisto a title. She could have been owed that right. She was the strongest non-Devil King in the underworld, her power reaching to a point where it could rival even Cyrus and any of the other Devil Kings. The reason why she attended the meetings the way that she did, why she was included in underworld affairs despite not having any real political status in terms of an actual title, was because of the power that she possessed. She possessed more than enough strength, making her capable, being to the point that she would feel more insulted if they didn't invite her or consult her on matters. Even though technically they didn't have to, her power was respectable enough that she needed to be. Although all the same, Lady Mephisto didn't necessarily enjoy everything that came with the job that she did have, overseeing the wayward souls of the underworld and punishing those who were evil. That was her job, and she carried it out well, often keeping to herself and to her own vices. But it had been ever since that day that she had met Johnny, all of those years ago, that it seemed as though her life changed in ways that she could not fully understand herself. Now she had worries, concerns, sentiments. The loss of their son, Nicholas. That was the one that drove her over the edge. To this day, she had immense regret. She knew that she should have let her son pass on, but she didn't. She used forbidden magic to bring him back into this world, trying to channel her son's soul to the spirit of vengeance. However, in the process, whatever it was that came back in its body, that was not the Nicholas that she knew and loved. And now she could only be left but to wonder how things could have been different had she not given in to her moment of weakness, if she hadn't tried to bring her son back to life, and now only to see the plague that he had become. All the more, it made her even more anxious, because unknown to Issei or to anyone else, when it came to Issei, Lady Mephisto had come to see him like her own son. And while he had accepted the task of capturing the 99 in Blackheart, there was a part of her that didn't want him to do it. A part of her that genuinely worried for his safety. But she knew she could not stop him once his mind was made up. And as such, the only thing that she could do now was support him, to watch over him, and to see what kind of man he would become. And this fight would be a good measurement of that, as the next battle was underway. Ghost Rider versus Ghost Rider. Issei Hyodo versus Danny Ketch. Both Issei and Danny made their way to the center of the arena. Everyone still on their feet, holding their breaths, not knowing what they were going to expect next. Issei was wearing the school uniform as always, with his jacket, leather gloves pulled firmly on his hands. As he walked out, Danny was still well dressed in his black suit and tie. As the two of them stared each other down, Danny remarked that Issei seemed to have finally grown up a bit since the last time they fought one another. Issei remarking that he was going to make him pay for that last time. The disrespect could not go unpunished. The two would catch a grin before setting aflame, their heads morphing into that of a skull set on fire, as the two went charging at one another. waves of heat being radiated from the two of them as their fists went flying. Issei's punches had some real weight behind them now, and Danny could feel that he couldn't afford to hold back, not this time around. Both Danny and Issei would exchange blows with one another, Issei reining in a few good shots to the face, while Danny, being the more experienced fighter, would aim some well-choiced punches to the body. He knew that trying to get Issei winded would be the best way to take him out this time around. And for Issei, he truly could see the power that he originally had. It didn't take Danny much in their first fight to subdue him and to put him in his place. But now, it looked like Issei might be able to take this. Issei being able to use his chain quicker than Danny was, wrapping it around his body as he went slamming him back and forth, rocking him back into the air and back into the ground over and over again. Danny would eventually break free, before doing a similar trick of his own, taking the chain from around his waist and wrapping it around Issei's leg, swinging him around in a circle, causing him to become very dizzy and disorientated, before slamming him into the side of the stadium wall. As Issei got back out, pushing over the rubble and debris, Danny would ask him if that was really all he had, and that if it was, he wasn't going to expect to win. That truly got Issei fired up as he went racing back towards Danny, the two of them engaging in fisticuffs once more. It became very apparent to everyone that this fight was going to come down to the end, and it was going to be simply a matter of who wanted it more, who had more of the drive, who had more of the will. For Danny, that was something he wanted to see from Issei. He didn't lament at all. Even in his older stages, Danny showed that he knew a thing or two when it came to fighting, showing that it really was experience that gave him the victory over anything else. In terms of raw power, Issei had him beat. He had to acknowledge that. But a couple of well-timed punches and kicks, coordinating his attacks, and moving at the right moment, that was what gave him the edge, what gave him the advantage, what allowed him to stand firm against those whom of which he knew might be more powerful than him. When it came to the Ghost Riders as a whole, Danny knew that he wasn't stronger than Johnny. He wasn't stronger than many of them that had come before him, and there were even some who came after him, who also were impressive in raw power. But Danny had something that those with the raw strength didn't have. He had a brain that worked just as fast and worked even twice as hard. In doing so, he was always able to see victory, even when it didn't seem plausible. Along with some grit, determination, and some never-say-die attitude, Danny had cemented himself as one of the strongest Ghost Riders that Lady Mephisto had ever seen. That was the reason why he was her right-man hand all the way up until now. Despite everyone that had come and gone, she knew that when it came for someone to rely, it was Danny she would call. As for Issei, despite having outgained him in strength, what he lacked was the necessary knowledge and fortitude. He didn't have the same type of experiences that Danny had, despite all of his accomplishments. However, all the same, Issei was a quick learner. The fight continuing to drag on, it became very clear that it was anyone's fight to win and anyone's fight to lose. Before long, it seemed as though they were in the final stages. The two flaming-skulled warriors breathing heavily, their clothes being ripped and torn as they had buried each other all over the battlefield. As it seemed as though the match were now coming to an end, Danny decided that it was time to finish things, and he went in for the finishing strike. However, Issei expected this. Countering with an attack of his own, he eventually had Danny pinned to the ground. Charging up as much hellfire as he could, he pulled out his gun and pointed it directly at Danny's skull. Danny asked what he was going to do next, and Issei simply chuckled as he pulled the trigger. Taking a shot, Danny's head would be blasted with a concentrated force of hellfire. As the skull went cracking back against the ground, he would slowly get back to his feet. Issei, however, didn't lament. He didn't let up for a moment, as he kept shooting. Danny kept falling to the ground over and over again, but Issei kept on shooting. He didn't stop for a moment, even when others in the crowd started to ask him to. Issei knew the truth that they couldn't see. Danny wasn't the kind of man to go down from a few shots, no. Issei had to bring out everything he had in this moment. He continued to shoot at Danny, shooting him into the ground over and over again, until eventually Danny finally raised up his hand, telling him that that was enough, and he admitted defeat. Issei was happy for this, since he was almost out of power himself. The two of them de-transforming once more, as Danny had admitted defeat, and now Issei Hyodo was the winner. Everyone was happy for Issei's victory, and Lady Mephisto was definitely impressed. As he helped Danny to the back, they would reconvene with the others who were also happy for the matchup as well. Even for Cyrus and the other Devil Kings. Now they had seen yet another candidate who could potentially become a Devil King in his own right, Issei Hyodo. With all of this talent, they were feeling more and more giddy. A few of the Devil Kings even wanted to start doing their own training to get stronger so that they wouldn't be left behind by this next generation. Cyrus simply smiled at the thought. The idea that the next generation of devils, that they were getting so strong and powerful, that now even his own generation had to train and work hard, so as to not be left behind. It only served as more motivation to get stronger and to be better than they were before. As Issei went to go and relax in the waiting area, as Cyrus and Volley congratulated him on the well-fought match, and Irina rushing over to give him a hug, as well as help him with his own healing. They watched the monitor as the final matchup of the evening was going to take place. The rating game between Rias Grimory and Sona Seatree. For Issei, this was the first rating game he had ever gotten to actually see. He wasn't there for the rating game between Rias and Riser, so now he had to learn and catch up to speed with how it worked and why they were done in the first place. Cyrus proving to be a good view for information when it came to something like that. As they watched on and enjoyed the match, Issei got a chance to see how both Sona and Rias approached battle. For Rias, her team had the overwhelming force when it came to power. But what Sona and her team lacked in power, they made up for in skill, using their various techniques to their advantage. Even Saji, having the power of the Black Dragon, Farithra, the Absorption Dragon, it proved to be very useful in countering some of Rias' other players. Eventually though, as the rating game was winding down and getting to the very end though, everyone was at bated breath, neither one sure of who was going to come out the victor. Although in the end, Rias and her team were able to pull out the victory and win the match, leaving everyone very satisfied with the events of the day, getting a chance to see an excellence in terms of battle strategy and combat, seeing what the next generation had to offer. All the while the festivities were going on and everything seemed great, there was a brief moment where Issei felt as though something bad was going to happen. He wasn't sure of where it was coming from or why he was feeling that way, although it wouldn't take too long for him to find out why. As a large explosion would happen within the stadium itself, Issei and the others would watch on the monitors as everyone began to yell and scream. Issei, Cyrus, Volley, and Irina would go running out immediately, trying to reconvene with the others to see what was going on. Volley made a call to Biko, Kuroka, and Arthur, asking for the other members of the Four Horsemen to assemble, and they made their way as well, joining with the group before long. As they made their way to the entrance tunnel, they would see now that they were under attack. It seemed as though an army of rogue devils were now making their presence known. It didn't become too unclear who was behind this. It was the work of the Chaos Brigade, and they were at it once again. Unknown now, the others got a chance to see who was behind the attack from the beginning of it all. Issei noticed that the main one leading the charge was none other than Nightmare, Blackheart's right-hand man. However, he wasn't alone in this attack, as there were a few others that could be recognized as well. Along with them was Loki, the Norse god of mischief, Shelba Beelzebub, and the final one, a woman with short black hair. She looked similar to Lady Mephisto, but Issei didn't recognize her. However, Danny quickly joined them, as he knew all too well who the woman was. Her name was Lilith, and she was the sister of Lady Mephisto. Once an ally, now turned enemy. They thought that they had been rid of her a long time ago, but now she was resurfaced. You could say that she was Blackheart's aunt, and it seemed as though the aunt and nephew duo were at it again. As the attack from the Chaos Brigade raged on, Odin, the four Devil Kings, and Azazel went to confront where the source of the trouble was coming from, trying to deal with the enemies that were all around them. However, as they were doing so, another overwhelming force would emerge. As a large magical seal would appear in the sky, the symbol for infinity along with it. A being would come popping from out of the spell circle, and it was none other than Blackheart. Issei and the others rushing as they made their way, Lady Mephisto going to confront him at once. The mother and son now coming face to face once again. She asked what his goals were and why he was doing this now. Blackheart simply explained that it was really nothing that she had to worry herself about, since soon she would get exactly what they wanted. They were going to be one big happy family. Both Danny and Issei would arrive to Lady Mephisto's side at once, the two of them transformed and ready to go. Blackheart would make a few jokes here and there, before stating that there was only one true Ghost Rider in his mind, that being his father, Johnny Blaze. Danny became absolutely sick with Blackheart and his taunts once more, telling him that he had no right to speak of the name of Johnny in the first place. However, Blackheart had something else he wanted to show them. As a magical circle appeared by his side, it would be enveloped by flame, as a man would slowly rise from the circle, his skin looking as though it was starting to rot. He looked as though he were a corpse that had been pulled out of the ground. For Issei, he could hardly recognize him. However, Lady Mephisto and Danny, they knew exactly who that was. They knew the corpse that was standing beside Blackheart. Blackheart chuckled once more, asking if they wanted to be a family again, because it was always time for a reunion. As he imbued some of his power into the corpse, its flesh started to repair itself and be done anew, as his blonde hair began to show. The man would reveal that he was none other than the late Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider that preceded Danny Ketch and Issei Hyodo. However, something was different about him. His eyes were pure and completely black, devoid of any pupil. As Johnny looked back towards his son, and then looking back towards them. Blackheart would explain that this here were a vessel for the spirit of Johnny Blaze, his father, the greatest Ghost Rider that ever lived. Thanks to the power of Orpheus, as well as a special trinket he was able to find, the young boy pulling a book from out of his coat pocket, Lady Mephisto being absolutely horrified, for she knew what that book was, but how on earth her son had gotten a hold of it, she never knew. The book that Blackheart was wielding was the Necronomicon Deus Mortis, a book of the damned. What was so dangerous about this book? It was the book of corruption. It was only a choice few who could use its power without fully going into the dark side, before having their souls completely corrupted and destroyed. But you see, Blackheart was a being that had no soul. His soul could never be destroyed because he never had one. The one weakness that kept any one person from truly using the Necronomicon to its fullest extent was a weakness that Blackheart did not share, meaning that he was privy to the fullest extent of the power of the book, at least as much power as he could understand and comprehend. Using this in combination with the power of Orpheus the Infinite Dragon, not only has he resurrected Johnny, but there were a plethora of other souls that were being reanimated as well. You could say they were undead devils, although Blackheart preferred the term deadites to be more specific. Both Danny and Issei were preparing themselves for battle as the underworld found itself under siege, when he would get a call on his phone. There would be panic in the voice of Rias that came through the line. He asked her to calm down in what was happening, Rias only stating that she needed him right away. He would ask her what the problem was and what had happened. But you see, after the raiding game between Rias and Sona, both sides were very weak and wary after the battle that they had, and they weren't at full power. And right now there was another being that was taking advantage of that situation, attacking them while they were too weak to really fight back, and the only thing they could do was hide and hold them off. It was Diodora Astaroth, the traitor who had led to this attack. But what was worse was that he had taken someone away, and that someone was Assia Argento. This concludes What If Issei Was the Ghost Rider? High School DxD Flame of Fury, Season 3, Part 2. As always, if you like today's video and everything else that we have on the channel, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that is to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow as we are going to be concluding What If Issei Was the Ghost Rider? High School DxD Flame of Fury, Season 3, Part 3, the Season 3 finale. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.